Was episode 49. This episode is episode 50. Salty, middle-aged podcast we are. This is episode 50. And last I looked, we had 91 uploads. And that's like 4 Chronicles ago, or 5 Chronicles ago. So we might be broaching 100 actual uploads to YouTube from this series alone. You know, chronicle by chronicle. Maybe not this episode, but maybe the next one. I don't know. I told myself I wanted to do 10 episodes for a series, just to see. And I did them. And I called them a test series. I wrapped a neat little bow on them and I said, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And now that the podcast has come into adolescence, middle-aged adolescence, as I'm likely to do in this life, practice or no, I find there's a twofold situation happening with this second generation of the pod. Now that we're out of the basement, out of the tests series, and firmly in 50 territory, now I get to think to myself the delightfully succulent question of what are numbers with this podcast? Because I discarded, or I left to the back burner, the wiles of the actual timing on these episodes. I'm not worried about going an hour and a half every time, and then 2 hours the next month, and then 2.5 the next month. I've got the bandwidth for a lot of things right now, but I'm pivoting in so many directions that this is kind of my bread and butter. This is kind of the one thing I can make myself do. And one condition to that is it happens the way that it wants to happen, and I don't put a rule on it. And so, it just so happens I haven't had the daily wake up and do sense of half an hour increased runs per month. I just haven't had it. If it wanted to happen, it would have happened. Actually, want is definitely there, but I want a lot of things. Better to say that if it was going to happen, it would have happened. Because the podcast tends not to want for anything. It tends to be exactly what it wants to be. It tends to be what it is. I tend not to get too in the way of this podcast. I'm quite proud of myself. Yeah. Back to what I was saying about numbers. Another layer of attention on the numbers of this podcast. Now that the numbers of episodes have reached 50, the numbers of chronicles / uploads, Breathcast is a part of that. The household-friendly episodes are a part of all that. All told, we're approaching 100. So what, do I call this 100 Chronicles of Ride Along with Ron Man, Season 1, and wrap it up in another slightly bigger bow? Do we rush into all this thing? It's a possibility. There's no reason why not. But we have other options, don't we? We could call this a halfway point to something else. To 100 episodes solid. Not chronicle, episode. 100 episode podcast. Because of course that's been a part of the conversation. Of course I've thought about it. Do I want to break this up into seasons, or do I want to keep it all a nice little gooey treetop lagoon ocean? Much like my Wim Hof practice. Well, I could. Either way, it's significant. Every 10 episodes I feel significant. Cool little push Sometimes I don't, actually. It's not every 10 episodes, but it definitely was on this 50th one. A sense I got, I was like, oh my god, 50, yeah. I wouldn't mind getting to 100. And just seeing where the terrain winds up, you know? I'd like to be on that hill looking back and seeing how far we've come. That's a cool idea. It's a maybe idea. Much like the maybe runs that I'm famous for. Welcome to Maybe Gas. Welcome to Maybe Podcast with yours, possibly. Welcome to Schrodinger's Cast with yours, Catley. Oh, God. Thank God I'm not with somebody that I hate right now. Thank God I'm not with somebody who hates me. Just looking at me like, oh my God, fuck you and your humor, you piece of shit. God. In how many universes, right next door to this one, is that exactly what's happening? Justin getting bitten into by a partner, quote-unquote partner, where there's no mutual respect. No rhythm to the wavelength. Oh man, could you imagine? I can. In fact, that's probably the default. I feel myself magnetized to that sphere, and I find that it's still a practice to drop myself into the unknown. Which is funny because I've actually done pretty good in that department. I tend not to have chosen against what could help me and serve me, and to whom I couldn't give anything beautiful or good. Things have tended to be better than that, romantically, in my life. Been with some pretty cool people. Yeah, we had a rough start, but everyone does. And if they didn't, and I did, so what? I can tell you one thing. Right now, there's no edge in the voice. Right now, there's no venom. There's no hacking tar in the back of my throat from all the shit talk, all the hisses and the hums and the haws. There's none of that. In this universe, I have the chance to develop along a different lattice. Thank goodness. In fact, sometimes I've felt myself talk to my past self. Sometimes I've been in the past talking to my future self. Sometimes I've felt remarkably connected to those selves, hidden in half shadow behind the veil. Or in a completely opaque lack of understanding. I've talked to various of myselves in that condition as well. In fact, probably mostly that way. Since I'm a little on the skeptical side and I don't tend to favor the woo. Tends to feel a little funky and fuzzy and ruffling of the hypercritical inner voice when I talk of different selves, especially when I talk of talking very nicely to my different selves. But what I was getting at was I just got the prickle of a ghostly whisper out from the future where there's a possibility of a truly beautiful partnership with who knows who, or who knows however many people. I have no idea. I've got some hard sells and some soft sells, but I don't have like a good, and I don't need a good rubric or criteria for what to look out for. I've got some ideas. But I got this sense of, oh yeah. I see a future percolating, and I see what might be a beautiful woman. Running alongside me, or biking with a camera, or taking my call as I invite her for a guest spot on the podcast, episode 1000. Who knows? Who knows? It's funny how seldom I've thought of these things. For all that that's a huge part of the practice. After all, we're running toward what we want. Not away from things we don't. It just is what it is. That was a very savory thought. Kind of got a prickle. A little prickle behind the ears of, man, that girl might have words for past me too. And I won't even need to say anything. That's beautiful. Could you imagine? Episode 1000, she's on the podcast. She's like, hey, I've been making my way through your backlog. Run man. Remember back when you were a run adolescent? Remember when you were almost run boy? I want to say something to him. You don't even know what's coming, Jimmy Jack. Because I've rocked your world about 100 times now. I'm going to rock them 100 more. So buckle up, Buster Brown, in a good way. Because this thing is real good up here. And it's getting better all the time. With all the work and all the practices. What a nice thought. What a nice thought. I'm telling you. It's less a practice and more the way of the void as time goes on. We talked a lot about emergent conversations a few episodes ago. It's the same thing as that. I'm never as good with the void as I am on this podcast. I remember one time I was listening to a tape that had some hypnotic sub-beats in there that were supposed to relax me. It was like a meditation CD. I was listening in a handheld CD player. Such a thing once existed, you know. And I heard some words that were quite something. And they were profound. I knew they were profound. I knew they were profound when I heard them, and I knew that I wasn't quite listening. Experienced a lot of myrrh when I knew that. I didn't know how to turn on the listen switch, the open up switch, which is ironic considering the nature of the material that I was purveying. But I'll just give you the words, and we'll just leave it at that. There is nowhere to go, said the cassette. CD thing. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing else to do. Just be here. Now. It was a woman's voice. She had a way of saying the word now. It was very, very good. It was relaxed. It was feminine. It was nice. Whew. Well, I guess that's the message we'll end on today. Nice message to end on. Crossing the legs. Getting into that little samurai stoop pose. Oh yeah, 47:28. Not bad, huh? Good little run today. Okay. Here's to 50 more, or 500 or 5,000. Here's to whomsoever vector magnetized maiden speaking back to me from the future, tickling me behind the ears with her ways and wiles. Thank you, my dear. Or if I end up single for my entire life, thank you, notion of a deer. Hell, we got crossed by a deer today. Not all deers are what you make of them or what you know of them. course, that was a buck. Fucker almost got me. God, if I was just a little slower or a little faster, things might have been a lot different. But it worked out in the end, didn't it? Whew. Don't let me fucking go out that way. Don't let me get knifed in the street by a deer. Don't let that be the end of the podcast. If it is, that's a hell of a way to go, and I'll take it, but we can do better. We can do better like this. Watch this. 3 breaths, now. Long spine. Plumb line. And sweet, sweet, sweet like turpentine. Okay. Have a great morning, everybody. And raise y'all's glass for 50 cast. Talk to you later. Bye.